Thank you, Mr. Huang, for the amazing speech. Techman Robot has envisioned a world where humans and robots can work in harmony to achieve excellence. Through Dr. Huang's sharing, we saw not only how smart manufacturing and AI can provide optimized solutions to different industries, but also how cobots can change the world. After three professional and splendid speeches, I believe everyone must have a fruitful time. And now we are going to enter the final panel discussion. We will be having Mr. Lai as the moderator and invite all the speakers today to have a more in-depth discussion on future trend and development. Now, let's welcome Mr. Lai and our speakers today.
Thank you. For the first question, to enter the global supply chain of electric vehicles, what's your opinions on Taiwan's advantages and the direction of development? And the second question is, Taiwan has a very complete supply chain of electric vehicle components and has also become a supplier to Tesla. But how will the robotics industry develop in the future? Let's firstly invite Mr. Wu to share his thoughts with us. Okay, first of all, as I mentioned in my speech, high-mix, low-volume manufacturing with high flexibility has always been Taiwan's strength. In the past, the automotive supply chain was dominated by traditional car manufacturers, and this is mostly because of some historical factors. But the development of electric vehicles is more of a restructuring of the industry chain. In the past, Taiwan's production capacity in automotive components was always stronger than automotive manufacturing. And this will not change much in the future. I think it is very important to come up with a total solution based on components and the advantages of Taiwan's electronics industry. As the trade war between the United States and China intensifies, Taiwan can actually has great opportunity to make it a win-win situation with both sides. But no matter which direction to look at, in the end, Taiwan's fundamental problem will still be product competitiveness and productivity. Therefore, I strongly suggest that whether you are already in the industry or planning to join it, we all need to develop our skills, and we need to do it fast. Because in the future global competition, information asymmetry will no longer exist, and we must have real stuff to get the best deal. This is my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wu, for your sharing. Next, let's invite Mr. Zhang to talk about his opinions. Sure. When it comes to electric vehicles, the first thing that comes to your mind is probably autonomous driving. And after autonomous driving is introduced, the things that happen in the interior space of a vehicle will also change. Whether it's a sedan, a medium-sized car, or a bus, the concept of vehicles will change after the introduction of autonomous driving. The idea of the internal space of vehicles acting as a second living room might be more and more popular too. As we become closer and closer to hands-free driving, we don't have to pay attention to your steering wheel as much as we used to. And hence, there will be more time for us to do other things inside a car. Traditional automakers had the advantage of manufacturing hardware, such as engines and suspensions. But with the introduction of electric vehicles and autonomous driving, what we focus on is not the turbo technology or engine cooling system anymore. What we concentrate on are electricity, management, and self-driving, such as the advanced driver assistance systems, which involves a lot of computing. And speaking of computing, Taiwan has always been at the forefront of the world's IT industry. And we have had abundant industry chain capacity in high-performance computing. For example, the x86 architecture, and high-end ARM platforms. In the new era of electric vehicles, what you do inside a car might be an extension of what you were doing before getting in the car, whether it's watching videos, live streaming, or surf the internet. And to make the connection more seamless and create better continuity, technology integration is necessary. For example, to integrate the cloud and the edge. And this has always been Taiwan's strength, and we do have opportunities in this field. Recently, because of the pandemic, almost everyone is staying at home. The demand for notebooks has therefore been soaring. And we have seen electronic-related industries growing fast and heated as well. It means that in the future, besides electric parts, Taiwan can actually have great opportunities in the application of vehicles' interior space. We can think about that apart from the transporting function of electric vehicles. What will we do inside a car in the future? And with the increasing demand for electric vehicles, we can also think about how we can take advantage of our IT industry and seize upon the business opportunity. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Zhang. And finally, let's invite Mr. Huang to talk about his thoughts with us. Thank you, Mr. Lai. In my speech, I mentioned many times about electric vehicles as a revolution in the automotive industry. As we know, the automotive industry has always been the most critical part of economic growth in many countries. If we look at the past few decades, countries dominating the automotive industry all maintain a high national competitiveness, such as Germany, the United States, and Japan. We are now in an era facing the transformation of automotive supply chain. The traditional automotive supply chain is changing, in which the role of IT becomes more and more important. And the application of in-vehicle software will also increase. This is a very nice opportunity for Taiwan. The expense of research and development in the electric vehicle industry can be immensely high, possibly up to billions of dollars. And it's extremely difficult for small and medium-sized car manufacturers to invest such amount of money. Plus, there's not enough time. And Foxconn happened to establish the MIH Consortium. MIH provides EV-related hardware and software knowledge for electric vehicle developers. If this platform operates successfully, I believe Taiwan will soon catch up with countries like Europe and the US in automotive industry. Or we can even say we will surpass them in the future. And if Taiwan can provide modular products or unibody casting, it will indeed change the look of car manufacturing. And this would definitely be a great opportunity for Taiwan. So it's important for us to think about our strategy of development to achieve such goal. As we all know, the trade war between the US and China is still on. For example, Apple Car is going to build an industry chain in the US. When they are looking for a component supplier, such as battery manufacturer, Chinese manufacturers will possibly be excluded first. And there comes the shot for Taiwan. The cases that I mentioned above are all promising chances for Taiwan. We can seize these opportunities and maybe bring a different and better future to our next generation. Thank you. Okay, then let's move on to the next issue. We all know that automobile is a prosperous industry in Japan. And they have also started the development of electric vehicles about 10 years ago. So my question is that, is it possible for Taiwan to have cooperation with Japan in the manufacturing of electric vehicles? And how can we achieve that? Second, how can Taiwan leverage our strength in the global market? And lastly, if Taiwan and Japan have the chance to work with each other, how can we make it into the global electric vehicle market? As the leading manufacturers of robotics and IT industry, I believe you all have valuable opinions to share. And first, let's invite Mr. Wu to talk about his ideas. Okay, first of all, for the first question about Taiwan's cooperation with Japan, as far as I know, the economic ties between Taiwan and Japan have already been very close in traditional automotive industry chain. But in the past, it was more like a mode of business to business sales, where Japan was the technology importer and Taiwan acted as OEM and gave feedback for improvement. This was the pattern for the cooperation between Taiwan and Japan in the past. But when it comes to electric vehicle, I think there is a great opportunity for Taiwan to take the lead and provide technology if we work with Japan in electric vehicle manufacturing. We can integrate our own supply chain in the electronics and semiconductor industry and provide ideas to automakers in Japan. And I think this pattern will actually be quite common in the future. So under such backdrop, there comes another point, which is that what is Taiwan's advantage exactly? According to my observation, I would say it's our capability of integration. Cross-disciplinary integration of knowledge is now a very important issue, not only in the electric vehicles, but also other industries. Take Highwind, for example. In the past, for the manufacturing of mechanical components, we used to spend decades catching up with our Japan competitors. But when it comes to the technology integration of electromechanics, software, and firmware, Taiwan has always been growing very fast. And we are also visionary on this field. And I think that is Taiwan's advantage over Japan. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, I think that in the future, development of Taiwan will certainly need to move towards the direction of integration across different technology and industries, rather than just simply focusing on productivity and manufacturing capacity. This is an important trend that worth all of us to think upon. And I think it will also be a relatively easier direction for Taiwan to have a place in the global electric vehicle industry. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Wu. And next, let's invite Mr. Zhang to share his opinions based on his professions in IT about its application in the electric vehicle industry. Okay, since electric vehicles are called vehicles, let's first talk about vehicles' characteristics. The automotive industry is a very special industry. By looking at the product life cycle, we can see that for the general commercial vehicles that we can buy in the market, its product life cycle is about 5 to 7 years. This 5 to 7 years means the period of time during which the product can be sold on the market. But there will be related repairment and maintenance problem after the purchase of the car. So the supply chain itself needs to be capable of providing these products and service for at least 7 to 10 years or more. So we can see that the automotive industry is a very unique industry. Version control for components and parts is necessary because cars are not like ordinary products whose parts can be replaced with a variety kinds of parts. That is to say, when a car you bought 10 years ago goes back to the original factory for maintenance or repairment, the factory must use the exact same part it used 10 years ago. It doesn't necessarily have to be produced 10 years ago, but it must be the same specifications designed 10 years ago. DFI is a provider of industrial computers, and Taiwan plays a very important role in the worldwide supply chain of industrial computers. In the era of electric vehicles, the components used in the vehicles are not like before. Traditional vehicles mostly use mid or low-level computer components, such as NPUs or non-energy consuming chips. But electric vehicles require to be equipped with advanced chips, AI, and more entertainment functions. And because of the nature of electric vehicles' product cycle, as electric high-end computer parts are introduced, the electronic components will also need more stringent version control. And Taiwan's industry has actually been very well trained in this area. We have already had a lot of experience in business cooperation with Japan in the field of industry computers. Japan is a large automobile market, and when it comes to the integration of electric vehicles, they have the advantage of brands. And for the components and parts, we can provide Japan with a very complete range of variety, whether they are large components or small parts. As for version control, because the nature of the automotive product cycle is very similar to that of industrial computers, we must also ensure that we can provide a system or platform that can last for at least 10 years for the customers to use. In the past, the components and parts supply market has been oligopolized by companies such as Bosch. But in the future, with the increasing demand for electronic products, manufacturers in Taiwan will have more advantages. When manufacturers in Japan are developing a car model or new products, Taiwan can provide a large product database for them to choose according to their needs. In addition, Taiwan's industrial computer is also very mature in terms of modular architecture. When the Japanese market needs a more flexible and modular platform, we have a great opportunity to become their supplier partner. And this is also our advantage in technology. These are my opinions. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Zhang. And finally, let's invite Mr. Huang to talk about his ideas and related experience in Techman Robot. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lai. As mentioned, Japanese automotive industry has always been booming in the gasoline vehicles and is even among the biggest market in the world. But regarding the development of electric vehicles, compared with Tesla and other German automotive manufacturers, Japan is falling a bit behind. Maybe it's that they have different consideration for development direction, such as the hydro-fueled vehicles. So, as things stand, Japan is a little slower stepping into the electric vehicle industry, and it gives Taiwan a great opportunity. Of course, there are still big companies in Japan that are developing relatively fast, such as Toyota. Toyota has already had its own hybrid electric vehicles, so as long as it strengthens the electric part, it can still stand strong in the market. However, Japan still has many small and medium-sized car manufacturers. It's relatively difficult for these manufacturers to develop a platform to integrate their products. Therefore, when it comes to components and parts related to electricity, such as rechargeable batteries and electronic components, Taiwan surely has a great opportunity. In addition, I think the modularization of the components for electric vehicle will also be a key point. When designing modular parts, apart from designing for manufacturing and designing for automation, we also need to consider the flexibility for products in the future. At present, Techman Robots has worked with several manufacturers, including Omron in Japan. We already have several offices in Japan, and we also cooperated with Japanese car manufacturers. When we discuss Taiwan's supply chain, if we want to be a supplier for manufacturers in Japan, automation will definitely be involved in the whole design process. And we can say that this is the advantage of Taiwan. Our supply chain includes both technology and integration, and we achieve the goal of designing for automation. For now, we provide a variety of equipment to Japan's manufacturers, including collaborative robots. And during the final kitting stage, we can provide local service. Besides, we can also provide flexible matching when they have the needs for different modules. By this way, we can work in line with Taiwan's supply chain and at the same time provide better service to Japan. This is Techman Robot's experience of working with manufacturers in Japan in terms of modularization, customization, and designing for automation. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Huang, for the professional insight. Japan has always been a very important economic partner to Taiwan. We work with them in terms of industrial chain cooperation. And Japan has also been a leading role in the world automotive industry. And finally, for the current development of electric vehicles, I would like to ask you two final questions. The first question is, from the aspect of technology for electric vehicles, how should we accurately set the direction of research and development? And what is the development strategy? The second question is, seeing from the development of the robotics industry, how should we precisely apply the technology of robotics to the electric vehicles industry? All of you are experts in this field. Would you please share some ideas and thinking on these two questions with us? Let's firstly invite Mr. Wu to share his opinions. Thank you, Mr. Lai. Actually, if from the aspect of the research and development of electric vehicles, it is quite hard for me to tell a specific direction. Maybe I would say the other way around. And that is, I think electric vehicles represent a wave of technological innovation. And maybe it is just the first wave, and there may be a second or a third wave to come. The development of the automotive industry may also change greatly in response to the ever-changing needs of the market. Therefore, I think the right direction of research and development should be knowing the market and listening to the voices from the market. This is also the reason why many technologies in the past could be ahead of the times. From Highwing's point of view, we still strive to maintain our original core competitiveness. But at the same time, we also keep an open mind and attitude to understand the market, listen to the needs of the customers, and use this spirit to contribute to research and development. On top of that, when doing research and development, we also value the feedback from the market. And I think it is much more important than any other technology. In addition to listening to the market, when we are deciding what to focus on for research and development, we must also pay attention to whether the decision itself is related to the integration of technology. This is also what we find crucial, rather than just digging deep into a single area. We hope to integrate different applications of technology to provide more comprehensive services to our customers. So, following up on this topic, from the perspective that Highwind is a robot solution provider, our mission has gone beyond just the sales of robots. Instead, we focus more on discussing with our customers, according to their requirements, plan and reconstruct their factory, and provide a more comprehensive solution to them. Another important direction is, how can system integrators design better devices? And how can we use these devices to achieve automation or what kind of automation. In fact, I think in the future, the comparison for the number of robots that are manufactured or the robots' economies of scale will become less and less major. And for the current big robotics companies, it will also be difficult for them to increase their market share in the future, because the market will have been reaching a relatively balanced state. So, for newcomers in this field like us, our direction for future development will be to provide total solutions based on robotics. It is and will still be the way by which we respond to the development of electric vehicles as well as other industries in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wu, for the innovative and inspiring ideas. In view of the continuous development of electric vehicles, how can we invest our IT resources in autonomous driving? Let's invite Mr. Zhang to share his point of views. Okay, when we talk about electric vehicles, we should not think of it as simply an electric car. Take cell phones, for example. When smartphones first appeared, they were not loaded with so many applications. But look at where we are now, and you can basically do everything by your cell phone. And this was totally unimaginable when cell phone was first introduced. Personally, I think electric vehicles can be the carrier of the future. And it's just that these carriers are moving vehicles. As an industrial computer manufacturer, we must associate electric vehicles with the Internet of Vehicles. Also, from the aspect of security, vehicles and vehicles must be able to communicate with each other as well. To really achieve self-driving, we must have a complete Internet of Vehicles. Autonomous driving is only feasible when the environment condition is good enough. At present, no matter how high advanced the electric vehicle is, as long as there is heavy rain or snowstorm, the vehicle will be unable to move on anymore. But this situation is not surmountable. If the vehicle can act as an information carrier, then in the future, when it encounters a snowstorm, it will be able to communicate with the Internet of Vehicles, by which the external environment can tell the vehicle where to go so it doesn't need to figure out which direction to go by itself. For example, it can know how many vehicles are within a 100-meter radius through the Internet of Vehicles. And even the wire poles can be used as sensors. So there will be many sensors on the whole road. And I think only when such degree of integration is attained can what we called the autonomous driving be complete. And only by then can we let go of the steering wheel without any worries. Therefore, we can't just narrowly think that I want to make batteries or I want to do ADAS or so on. We must include the Internet of Vehicles and a cloud management system as well as a development platform. And it must be capable of remote monitoring and remote update. The vehicle itself has to become a carrier, just like cell phones. It needs to be updated and controlled through remote management. In this way, each vehicle in the Internet of Vehicles will be like a bit. And when each bit can communicate with each other, self-driving can be achieved with great effect. So we should gradually introduce such a concept. The platform and the construction of the software layer should start from this point, rather than only focusing on developing one certain model of electric car. So that's why DFI is also participating in Foxconn's MIH Consortium. There are various companies from different fields in this alliance, such as Trend Micro and Microsoft. In the future, if we want to realize the real autonomous driving or the idea of making electric vehicle into a carrier, the roles of software, management, and cloud are essential. And if seeing from the aspect of robotics, although robots are not our main field, we have also noticed that the number of robotic applications is increasing. And there are many of our customers engaging in robotics-related industry as well. DFI have also joined the Autonomous Mobile Robot Alliance. Personally, I think that in the future, autonomous mobile robot will also be another kind of carriers, and we can define what robots will do. For example, in the future, maybe your gardener will be a robot. It could be walking like a person, or it could possibly be a car. It could use its robotic arm to help you prune the plants in your garden. And you could set up what style of garden you want through AI technology. And of course, there are many other applications, such as road cleaning or a lot of surface-oriented work. There are a great many areas to be applied. We have been engaged in the production of autonomous mobile robot. And today, we also have experts from the robotic field. So in the future, industrial integration will surely happen between companies. Integration is the biggest advantage of Taiwan. We are not famous for having highly concentrated mega corporates. Instead, the majority of Taiwan's companies are medium and large enterprises. All of them have their own specialties. And in the future, after the electric vehicles are implemented as carriers, its applications can be very diversified. You can imagine one electric car as an app store. You can put anything in it, maybe even a microwave. Of course, it sounds nothing but fantasy now, but Taiwan does have this industrial energy because we have all kinds of experts. We may not be mega enterprises, but we have the flexibility to achieve high-mix, low-volume manufacturing. In the future, I think electric vehicles will just be like cell phones. Maybe a vehicle manufacturer will provide a car as a carrier. It can drive, has the basic self-driving function, but in the end, what the car will look like is customized. And this customization may be done by several manufacturers together. So we don't have to focus on the OE market because the aftermarket may be more diversified. I think Taiwan really has a huge advantage in this area. Platforms like the MIH and NARA can also contribute to more cooperation. And when coming all together, we can have a great advantage in the global market. These are my opinions. Thank you. After listening to the concept of the carriers shared by Mr. Zhang, I'm actually becoming worried that in the future, people will refuse to get off their electric car after it arrives at the destination, just like how we can't put our cell phones away nowadays. And finally, let's invite Mr. Huang to talk about his ideas. Thank you, Mr. Lai. In such an era of technological revolution, electric vehicles will definitely be a fast market in the future. Therefore, the way we manufacture vehicles will surely change. Production lines may also have to be restructured, and the assembling method may also be completely different from now. For the industrial chain that we discussed just now, if it's going to provide motor modules or control unit modules, the component supply chain may also face structural alteration. And this is the revolution that the automotive industry will face in the future. And of course, in this wave of technological revolution, the concept of modularization is introduced. And when the modular products are manufacturers, companies or brands may further involve customization as long as the platform in Taiwan is successful. And when it comes to customization, once again, we will encounter the pattern of small quantities with high variety. So we must maintain the flexibility of manufacturing in order to cope with such demand. Of course, we can think about whether Taiwan is able to copy the pattern of OEM and ODM like we did in the past. For example, about 80% to 90% of notebooks were produced by Taiwanese companies in the past. And it can still be a great opportunity for Taiwan. In the future, maybe a foreign company will only set up the appearance of the car or its drag coefficient. And then the rest is for Taiwan to design, such as the car body or the interior parts. Of course, these designs need to achieve the company's requirements. And I think Taiwan does have the capacity to provide such a product supply chain. Of course, as a robotics manufacturer, we need to be innovative and we need to create more innovation. I think one of the biggest advantages of Taiwan is that our industries have excellent flexibility. In the face of this technological revolution, we advanced faster than Japan, Germany, and other traditional robotic arm manufacturers. In terms of the development process, we are still faster than the other countries, and I believe it is a promising opportunity. Moreover, we have advanced IT technology for further extension. In the future, the functions of a product will gradually increase, and software is certainly required to support different applications. Therefore, we need to involve various functions in a car as in-vehicle applications and add more values to it. These are all related to software technology and can also be achieved by the customization platform. In the future, there won't be only a few models of electric vehicles to choose from. The application of electric vehicles can be very flexible, and cars may become a personalized item. Taiwan does have the potential to play such a role in this era. We can be influential, using our flexibility to have a place in the world. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Huang, for your inspiring ideas on customization and flexibility. I also agree that this is the biggest advantage of Taiwan. And finally, I would like to extend my thankfulness to the three speakers today. Thank you for joining us in this webinar and sharing so many valuable opinions with us. We hope through this webinar, everyone can know better on the development and application of the electric vehicle and robotics industry in Taiwan. Thank you all for your participation today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lai, Mr. Wu, Mr. Zhang, and Dr. Huang for bringing us such an insightful discussion. Apart from practical sites on manufacturing application, our speakers also analyzed Taiwan's advantages on electric vehicles and how we can use our strength to shine on the global stage. With the integration of technology and automotive industry, I believe it's also highly possible for electric vehicles to become a new carrier in the future. EV industry is not only like a beacon of hope in the post-pandemic era, but also a bold avenue to a better future. We hope everyone has a rewarding and fruitful day. Once again, thank all the speakers for the remarkable speeches, and thank everyone for your participation. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.